a wall in southwest France. A habitat for wildlife throughout the whole year. From the sunshine of early spring, when the sun's rays begin to warm the stones, to the greenery of summer, bamboo, nettles, walnut trees. Where the grapes are ripening on the vines. Where the holes act as shelters for countless tiny animals, like these millipedes. To the heat, flowers and insects of summer. To cooler autumn days and cold winter rain. A late frost has left the plants dusted with tiny, delicate ice crystals, but they soon disappear as the temperature increases. Spring rain, and the mosses on the walls swell with water, creating a microscopic world, a tiny jungle, a world that is right next to us, but seldom noticed. Mites, tiny relatives of spiders, just visible to the naked eye as small red dots. They multiply rapidly, feeding on the moss. In this warm part of France, their calendar of activity is a short one. After the last frosts and before the scorching heat of summer dries out the moss. Normally a nocturnal animal, the woodlouse is active on this damp and cloudy day. Its armoured exoskeleton means its body is well protected against many small predators. Garden snails, like the woodlouse, usually active at night. The moss is home to many snails. This is a clouselid snail, A thick shell and small opening are good protection. Permatius. Its eyes at the base of the two tentacles. When retracted, the operculum, a circular calcareous plate, closely fits the mouth of the shell. There are larger inhabitants of the wall too. A great tit nest, only a metre above the ground. The parents must ensure they synchronise the rearing of the young with the glut of caterpillars that they must find and bring to the nest. And a fecal sac to be removed. A slug from the genus Arion. Is this the famous Spanish slug which is thought to be invading Britain? In fact, they are very difficult to identify to species level. Dissection is usually needed. Scutigera coleoptrata is a long-legged, extremely fast-moving centipede. It feeds on small insects. Often found in houses, this one is grooming, carefully cleaning its antennae with its forcipules. These are modified legs which contain poison glands. This centipede has lost 2 of its legs, but is still quite active. The centipede feeds by injecting the venom into its prey. Ants feeding on a St. Mark's fly. These flies usually hatch on St. Mark's Day, the 25th of April. And after mating, they soon die. The ants have found a dying St. Mark's fly and are soon dismembering it. They use their powerful jaws, cutting through the wings, removing the intestines, and cutting up the abdomen. This was a male fly, since the eyes are much larger. Finally, the insect's body parts have been taken back to the nest, and the remaining ants check nothing is left behind or wasted. Buddleja, growing by the wall. On the underside of the leaves, the aphids push their mouthparts into the plant tissue. Excess fluid passes through the aphid as honeydew, ants are protecting and rearing the aphids. In return for honeydew, the ants protect them from potential predators such as ladybirds. The aphids reproduce parthenogenetically. In other words, each female aphid produces a clone of itself. Here, speeded up, a female is giving birth to a new aphid. Not surprisingly, aphid numbers can increase at a dramatic rate. The ant is moving a newly born aphid. After its journey in the ant's jaws, it does not appear to be in a very healthy state. An ant feeds another on honeydew. They constantly communicate by touching each other with their antennae. The beginning of summer, and insects and other invertebrates show their huge variety and number. A western whipsnake, the commonest snake in this area, and a predator of lizards, small mammals, and nesting birds. This individual approaches 2 meters in length. Amongst the ivy, clematis and nettles there is great danger for small insects. Spiders and spider silk, spun as a deadly trap in different and varying forms. Orb weavers like this Araneus, or flatwebs like Linifia. Each spider with its poison-bearing mouthparts, known as chelicerae. Or this web, with a funnel at one end, where lurks Agelena. This female continually attacks and bites the small wasp. Is the spider's frantic behaviour due to the danger it senses? Since many wasps are spider hunters and killers. Deep in a hole lies Segestria, one of Europe's largest spiders. Sensing movement of the fly on the silken threads, the spider emerges, grabs her prey and retires to feed at leisure. But the film was slowed. This is the actual speed. Myrmarachne, a spider that mimics the appearance of an ant. It has 8 legs though, and 8 eyes, the front pair with excellent 3D vision. This male uses his palps to carefully wipe his front eyes. Dysdera, a fearsome nocturnal predator. It uses its huge chelicerae to kill and feed on woodlice. He carefully cleans his palps. These are used by the male in sexual reproduction. Thomisus spins no web, but takes on the colour of the flower it hides on, ready to ambush even large insects such as bumblebees. Its chelicerae may be small, but its poison is powerful. It is now full summer. The sun's burning heat turns the grass brown. But deep within the wall, the stones are still cooler and damper. A hummingbird hawk moth, feeding on nectar from the lavender. Slowed down 4 times. And 10 times. A wall lizard basking in the sun. They flatten their bodies to increase the heat absorbed. A small green bush cricket this time. But the arrival of flying ants produced plenty of potential food. The wall supports mammals too. They live in the holes at the base of the wall. But we must wait until dark and use infrared radiation to discover them. Here, a wood mouse cautiously emerges. And strangely, a few hours later, from the same hole, a vole. Told from the mouse by his smaller ears and short tail. Amphibians too, like this tree frog. And as summer ends, these bees are adding straw to their nest for the winter. But despite this, often drops the straw outside the entrance. The bees are thought to last the winter, hibernating in the nest. The iconic view of swallows assembling on the wires above the wall before they migrate. The flying insects they feed on throughout the summer are disappearing, and they must fly south to find sufficient food. a fire salamander digs down beneath the wall, ready for hibernation. Autumn, with longer nights and colder days. Finally, winter arrives. Snow falls rarely here. Perhaps one snowfall every 2 or 3 years. But when it does, the wall's inhabitants remain, hibernating, waiting for spring again.